Beyonce's not Jay-Z's dream girl, but Beyonce fits the image of who.
She goes on to say that she does not think Beyonce is Jay-Z's dream girl, but instead he recognizes that she is a dream girl for the majority of the population. And because of that, she is a suitable partner to have for someone of his level of stature in the music industry. If you are a woman who is beautiful, smart, well put together, charismatic, knows how to carry herself, can navigate any room full of people, okay, dating is going to be very, very hard for you. Not because you're going to have a shortage of men. Obviously, there's going to be a plethora of men that want to date you, but because you're going to have to do an extra level of evaluation to make sure that these men actually like you. Men recognize women who other men like, okay? Men know what other men like, and they know that it raises their social status to have a woman who is universally desirable next to them on their arm. This is why men pay for escorts to go to events with them. They know it's going to make them look better to show up with a beautiful woman who knows how to conduct herself than it is to show up alone. This is also why, if you look at the friend circles of gay men, a lot of them are beautiful women who are very well put together. It raises a man's social stock to be surrounded by beautiful women. So if you notice that you're going on dates and the man is not really getting to know you very well, he's not really evaluating you, or maybe he is and you kind of realize, like, I don't even think that this man likes me very much. He probably doesn't. But he recognizes that it is going to be more beneficial for him to have you around. He is still gaining something from your presence, from you being there, both from other men, because they're going to look up to him, and other women. Because when you see a guy with a beautiful girl next to him, you think, oh, I mean, he must have something going for him. Look at the girl that he pulled. It makes you subconsciously more interested. Don't tell me that y'all have not dated men, seen all their exes are crusty, and suddenly thought, what am I doing here? Am I crusty? It has the same effect in reverse. So if you are a woman that falls into this category where you are captivating, you are beautiful, and you're realizing, like, I don't really know why these guys are with me still. They don't even seem to like me very much. This is why. Be aware of this. Pay attention to it. That way you can know when someone's actually interested in you and when they're just using you for the benefit of standing next to you.
Beyonce was Jay-Z's good enough girl. Now, if you don't know what good enough girl is, you gotta watch the stitch of this video, another stitch of this video by our fairy godbrother, and he's telling us the 5 categories that men put women in. But I'll give you a little rundown, okay? So it's the desperate girl, the good time girl, the good enough girl, the dream girl, and the out of your league girl. And in that stitch, he put Beyonce in the out of your league girl. And I beg to differ. I beg to differ. Okay? I really, in my hearts of hearts, believe that Beyonce was the good enough girl. The good enough girl is the girl that you settle for. And I know on the outside looking in, it's like, girl, what are you talking about? That's Beyonce. Beyonce, y'all on this mouth. Like, let me stop. Okay. It's Beyonce. Like, what are you talking about? But let me tell you something. Beyonce is a great performer. She's a queen. She gives that, regal essence. But I really believe that her dynamic with Jay-Z is one that is I feel like it's so terrible. Why do y'all think Solange was messing that nigga up in the elevator? Because their dynamic is literally deplorable. And Beyonce, literally, the way that she was acting in the elevator is the way she acts every single time this nigga does some shit. So you cannot tell me that their dynamic is out of your league, girl, because the way Beyonce acts is just like, no, that nigga doesn't care. It's like she don't have no backbone when it comes to him. And if y'all remember and look back, by the time Jay-Z met Beyonce was like at least 20 years old. And Jay-Z had already been famous for so long. So it's like, you're 20 years old, you're new in the game, you just got out of Destiny's Child, you are trying to launch your solo career, and this guy, this I don't know how much money he had then, but like this super famous, uber famous rapper wants to be with you. Like, I don't think, I think she let a lot of stuff slide, okay? And let me not even get into the Aaliyah story. Let me not even get into the Aaliyah story, because I promise you, if my girl was still alive, it's a lot of things that would look very, 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 very differently. And that's not to say motherfuckers don't work hard, but I'm just saying. Because we know Jay-Z wanted Aaliyah the baddest, the worst. He wanted that girl so bad. He was so mad when he picked Dame. When she picked Dame, he was so livid. He was so mad. He was so mad. So, I know I love Beyonce too, but Beyonce do not have no did not. Maybe she found her backbone, but she did not have a backbone for a long time when it came to that man. She was the good enough girl. She was the one he settled for.
So people have been talking about how they don't think Beyonce is Jay-Z's dream girl. I concur. I believe she's his golden girl, as in The Great Gatsby, where Daisy is referred to as the golden girl, and both Gatsby and Tom only really want her because of what she represents, not because of who she is. And this ties in with the men's own identity. They want to use her to define their identity. All Gatsby can remember is that he was a poor soldier and he would go to Daisy's house. Her father thought he wasn't good enough. Now, all these years later, now that the man is dead, he wants to come back and claim Daisy as a prize. He wants her to tell her husband, who she has a child with, I never loved you, because he wants to erase his past using Daisy. And this is what Jay-Z wants as well. Beyonce was a suburban black girl, privileged, two-parent home, always a winner, always cosseted. Jay-Z was raised by a single mother in the hood. He was a dope boy on the corner, and he wants that golden girl to erase his painful past. Let me ask you, without a Beyonce by his side, do you think this guy ever would have had entry into Obama's White House? No. For him, Beyonce is Olivia Pope and Michelle Obama all rolled into one. She is the fixer and the elevator. This is also why he went for Beyonce rather than a woman who was Beyonce in his own generation. That woman would have been married before. That woman has her own past, and he doesn't want to be reminded the same way Gatsby was reminded by Daisy's marriage and child that she had a life before him. He was desperate for a woman who, in his mind, had no past, so he preyed on a child, he's got this huge age gap with, because he thought this would help him maintain some kind of supremacy. I'll be all she ever knows. I'm the past, the present, and the future. He thought he was going to absorb Beyonce's background, and her credentials would become his credentials. But instead, and we see this a lot with the dope boy type who goes for the suburban girl, he got triggered. And this happened for several reasons. As I've said before, first of all, Beyonce is on top of the world. Jay-Z is only at the top of his field. He's a very successful and influential rapper, whereas she is the top entertainer of our time, in addition to being on the best dressed list and the most beautiful list and the top businesswoman list, the magazine covers. He thought that prestige was going to automatically transfer to him as, quote, owner. And it didn't. In his mind, they are being compared when they stand side by side, and he knows he loses in that comparison. She can transition very seamlessly from place to place. He knows she's able to move in those elite circles, that she's wanted in certain rooms, even that she's positioned as a role model. And he knows his ability to access that kind of mainstream acceptance and success is far lesser and entirely dependent on his connection with her. Think about it like this. Almost every rapper you see from that era trying to transition into mainstream success has had to have a woman verifier by his side saying, this guy's all right. Think about Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart. Without his connection to her, do you think he would be nearly as commercially viable as he is right now, the way he is right now, this new rebranded image? Of course not. He'd be famous, sure, he'd be rich, but this new level of entree he has now because he does these shows with her and because basically she has softened his image, has given him access to a new market. And this is exactly what Beyonce has done for Jay-Z. But I believe he resents this dependence. I think Lemonade is a very good example of the fact that he realizes that her approval can be removed or removed at will, and that he would suffer for it, that he suffered in the public imagination for the disrespectful way he treated her. Like many men, I think that he thought that the goodwill she brought him politically and socially was his gift forever, and that he could do her any kind of way once he had it. And he didn't realize that he was like Arnold Schwarzenegger on borrowed time. Arnold Schwarzenegger thought that the political goodwill that his Kennedy wife brought him was his gift and he got to keep it. But when he cheated on her and she removed all the political goodwill that she brought into his life, and he fell from being a one-time governor of California to again being an action movie hero, he was shocked. At that level, a lot of men think that they absorb your power and they go on and they become more powerful and stronger than ever. I believe he intended for her to be an era in his life, which isn't to say that I thought that he was going to take her and then leave her. I think he thought he was going to be like Berry Gordy or Alfred Hitchcock, a star maker and going from woman to woman with his fingers on their legacies and total control over all of them. I think he thought he was going to have Beyonce in his home as the wife and the mother of his children and, be able to move freely at will between her and the other women. And he was going to be the center of it all, which is another reason he went for somebody so much younger. And we saw he tried to do the same thing with Rihanna and the way he tried to mold her and control her career. And this is why, in my opinion, he was featured so prominently on Crazy in Love. This was her big coming out moment as a solo artist, and I believe in his mind he was transferring ownership of her from her father Matthew to himself, Jay-Z, and indicating in the future, yes, now she's under my control, very much the same way she was under her father's control. And all the accolades that was once going to him are now going to go to me. In the same way that Berry Gordy thought that he owned Diana Ross's image back when she was under Motown's contracting. It's crazy how men fail to learn the same lesson from generation to generation, because Berry Gordy was in charge of Diana Ross. He picked the movies that she would do, even the wardrobe that she would wear. She was very well compensated. He had her on $1 million retainer. That's per year, back in the 60s. But still, he thought he controlled this woman. He thought he owned her because he controlled access to her, and that her success was going to be his success. And she left him behind and became a pop culture juggernaut. And essentially the same thing has happened here. His infidelity is a mind game. It is a way to, try and swipe at her self-esteem and control her. And because of the huge power imbalance when they got together, I'm sure it does affect her mentally. But I think by weaponizing that with Lemonade and demonstrating she could take his mistreatment of her and turn that into even more social power and capital, she completely flipped the script and the power dynamic in their relationship. When people talk about a dream girl, they have to realize that's all tied to power and social capital. As I've said before, you give an ordinary man a choice, and he could have his so-called dream girl come to his room secretly every night, and they could have a beautiful, passionate relationship, and she would do whatever he wanted. Or he could have that same woman despise him, but she would meet up with him publicly every day for lunch, let's say in a public square, and everybody in the world would know that they were together. They're going to pick the second option every time. It's why for ordinary men, their dream girl is almost always a celebrity. It's Scarlett Johansson, it's Anya Taylor-Joy, Zendaya, Justine Skye, because that would give them clout. That would give him, in his mind, her social capital. But the dream girl differs from man to man because different men have different dreams. Ordinary working class men want the money and the access. Men at that elevated level want the power. So no, Beyonce is not his dream girl, because instead of consolidating his power, she represents the fact that she could take it all away easily with a snap of her fingers. He resents her. He might even hate her. So who's the dream girl now? The answer varies. It could be a Gone Girl situation where his dream girl is just an ordinary girl who's going to be in awe of his power or his perceived power in the way that Beyonce never would be at this point. Some girl falling out, frothing at the mouth. Oh my God, you're Jay-Z. Someone who makes him feel like a conquering hero, because she doesn't have anything. She doesn't have that ability. She can't shake the room. She can't rock the world the way Beyonce can. So she has no choice but to be in awe of him. I think his dream girl used to be potential, like, somebody like Rihanna, who's a completely different type, who could have gotten him a different kind of political and social capital, who, when she was younger, was set up as a rival to Beyonce, who he thought might have been potentially able to take her on, who he could still mold and control. But that's over now. Beyonce is too firmly entrenched and nobody can ever supersede her. And there's no woman with enough social or political capital to help him cheat on her and leave and completely clean up his image afterwards. I don't know if he even dreams of women at this point. Like and follow for more.